Great. Good morning, Michael and Sashi again. Glad to have you here. And if you are downloading or watching this session, welcome. I promise you this will be an exciting, invigorating discussion. We have two CIOs of large university systems here in the US and talking about how do we build a better campus and the new normal for higher ed tomorrow. All our lives have changed, and I spoke to Michael and Sashi a few months before, I think just before COVID, and all of us are sitting in a very, very changed context. So with that, let me introduce myself. I am Sabina Saksena. I am the founder and CEO of Cytilife. I launched Cytilife 4 years back with a proposition called the Smart Campus. And the idea at that time was, how do we improve the quality of everyday lives of students? How do we help schools understand the notion of smart campus with data and analytics and smart technologies really helping people get real-time information on making decisions for their personal journey, whether they are in an administrative role, in a faculty role, or in a student role. Long story short, we are, that was pre-COVID. Post-COVID, I personally believe the role of the smart campus will be different, adapting to the times. Some parts of it will be accelerated, some parts of it may not be required, or some new parts maybe needed to be added. So that's the discussion with Michael and Sashi during the next 20 minutes. With that, I want to introduce Michael Berman, the CIO of the California State University system, and I'll ask him to kind of introduce himself and talk about the system a little bit. Michael?
Thank you, Sabina. Thank you for facilitating this conversation. Really appreciate it. I have a wonderful opportunity as the CIO at the California State University to serve 480,000 students. And since nearly all of them are online right now, I've started saying we're the largest online university in the country now, which is kind of remarkable because I wouldn't say that we would be seen as a leader in online education, but we've certainly made a massive change in how we teach, and in many, many cases it's been highly successful for students. I wouldn't go so far as to say for everybody. We have 23 campuses across the state of California, from Humboldt in the north to San Diego State in the south, and we serve what you might call a working class segment of and a poor segment of California in terms of the students. About half our students are eligible for Pell Grants. About half our students are first time to go to college in their family. And we work with them and help them become successful and become part of the California and the world economy. So very proud of our mission. We have 23 presidents, 23 campuses. I work in the Chancellor's office. So a lot of my work is to persuade, to cajole, to collaborate, and to pull people together to accomplish things as a team.
Excellent. Thank you, Michael. Thank you. We'll talk more about your changing role during our discussion. Sasi Pillay is the Chief Information Officer of Washington State University, and he is a CIO of the not formal, but a university system there, and also responsible for the Pullman campus. And Sashi, if you could introduce yourself.
Sure. Thank you, Sabina. Thank you also to Michael. Appreciate having the opportunity to discuss what's going through our universities at this time. It's totally unprecedented. Once again, my name is Sasi Pillay. I'm the Chief Information Officer of Washington State University. We have 5 physical campuses and 1 online campus. We have actually made that into a full-fledged online campus with chancellors and so on and so forth. So in total enrollment exceeds 30,000 across the entire spectrum of these institutions. And we also started a medical school. The first class is going to graduate this coming spring. So we are very, very excited as we continue to grow through and in spite of this pandemic. And a third of our students are first generation. So since Washington State University is a land grant institution, we have a location on every single county, which is 39 of them, plus half a dozen developmental centers across. So our presence is felt And we want to make sure we maximize that opportunity to interact with the Washington state citizens as much as possible, because education and providing information, whether it's and eventually doing what I would call telemedicine and even physical online instruction in these various locations, and that's what we're striving to do.
Excellent, Sashi. And with such a spread out campus, there is a question around what is the meaning of space for you now? And do you see all these spaces getting used in the future? And, so that's a question that has been in my mind when I see all the corporate buildings empty and students, may or may not come back, they may be online. So let's talk about that in a moment too. So with that, like I said, here, happy to have this panel here. And really we're going to discuss about how a smart campus, or what is the definition of the future of a campus? How can that be smart? What is smart for the future? And how will that help build us a better normal? So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and bring up panelists on the screen now. So in no order of priority, the way I wanted to talk about this was really that we know that we are going through unprecedented times, not only our personal, our social lives, our work lives that got impacted, but in a campus, it's a microcosm of a whole civilization. When you think about physical spaces, social, emotional attachment, the mental, kind of anxiety and pressure and happiness that kids go through, and the community feeling. I want to start with the student lens. I mean, that's the reason why campuses exist, right, for the students. In your view, and as you've seen this happening, how has COVID changed the student? And I just want to understand that. What are you seeing? What are you hearing from students? And what is your perception? Michael, would you want to go first?
Sure. Well, I think the first thing that we're seeing is that students are committed to their education, because despite all the reports and surveys that were coming out over the summer, talk about students taking a year off, taking a gap year, which sounds much more luxurious than what most Cal State students think about it. And especially a gap year would mean staying at home with your parents and having nothing to do. Our enrollments are up, our students are coming. I think that every student and every faculty member is having a different experience with the rapid move to online. Cal State has invested a huge amount of time and effort working with faculty to upgrade and update their skills in terms of using technology and pedagogy for teaching online. We see evidence that it's paying off, but it's a hard time for everybody. We know our students are struggling. We know they have personal issues. The issue of access to bandwidth and computer equipment has really risen to the fore, and it's really reignited a national discussion about what equipment, what environment does a student need to learn. If you can't get online, you can't learn online. And we know that somewhere around 15% of our students have a real challenge, whether it's from bandwidth or equipment. And our campuses have responded by loaning out huge quantities of equipment. We think it's probably in the neighborhood of $20 million worth of equipment across the Cal State that we've given to students for their use. We've given out hotspots. We're working with network providers to try to get students online. So it's been a huge challenge. So, I think that students are having a lot of the same challenges as everyone else, that all our students have lives. Large percentage of them have children. Many of them have parents at home that they're helping to care for. So they're going through these same things. But I think that the commitment that they had a year ago, that they wanted a Cal State education, they were willing to work hard to get it, has continued. They've committed themselves, and they're continuing to do the best they can in a less than ideal situation.
Sashi, what is your thought process on what you're seeing in your campuses?
It's very similar to what Michael described. I think, so if I can just take a step back, I think one of the things that the students come to universities for is not only for an education, but the experience. So when we talk about the opportunity for education, as Michael has pointed out, more and more things are already shifting to online resources, even if the student was attending the university in person. So what in my mind has happened is accelerated our movement towards using more ubiquitous resources across the entire network. So, and I'll talk about the challenge there, and Michael alluded to that, is the issue that, especially with a third of our students being first generation, the issue of digital divide became more apparent. Before, when the students were walking around on campus, they could go to a library, or or they could go to a computer lab, and so on and so forth, and get the needed access, even though not as convenient as to some other students who might have had better technology. They could work from their room, dorm room, or apartment. But as we moved everything to remote instruction, those students who did not have the digital technology at the same level as some of the other students, this issue of digital divide became far more apparent. So we quickly jumped into programs in terms of loaning equipment. We kind of chose Chromebooks because it was the easiest and least expensive way to provide that capability en masse. And if it breaks, we just ship them another one. Same thing with hotspots. And so we wanted to kind of create an environment where we are going to also move our physical computer labs into the clouds. So as long as we have access, I think that is the first thing. If you don't have access, you don't have anything. So first, the network connectivity.
Yeah.
Issue. So we provided not only the Chromebooks, but also hotspots. But the other thing we also did was significantly increased parking lot Wi-Fi available through our parking lot locations. Since I mentioned we have a location in every single county, we converted each of those parking lots into a Wi-Fi parking lot, which really increased the number of students who could connect to that. We also enabled EduRoam. So any student across Washington, or even a visiting student from California, from Michael's area, if they're in Washington, because there are some students who go back and forth, they could use that, because through our parking lot, they could get connected. And we also made it available so that the local citizens nearby could also avail themselves of this opportunity. We have the WSU Guest Network activated. Anyway, the state heard about it, and they picked up, they adopted the program. They pumped some money into it. They got some benefactors. Now we are close to 600 locations on the state of Washington. It's a huge success story.
Fantastic. Wow.
But I'll be the first one to admit, providing parking lot Wi-Fi is not the answer for rural broadband. So we are constantly working with the feds, federal government, the state legislature, and so on and so forth, continue to make that happen. But I thought that was the root to success. Now, let me get back briefly. I know I don't want to take a lot of time on this. The other part of the reason the students come to the university is the physical experience of being an undergraduate. And this is the one, I think, the one that we're suffering the most with, because part of that experience comes with getting together and socializing, and then even study groups in which in-person interaction is essential. As you probably all know, we learn, one of the ways we learn is working together. And we do that in our entire adult life as a worker.
Yeah.
We collaborate, and that part is totally missing if we are not making it. We do make some adjustments. So we are actively looking to see how we can solve that problem in cyberspace. And we have a couple of ideas we're pursuing now.
That's great. I wanted to, it seems like schools are doing what they can do, right? Providing physical devices, access points. I'm thinking about behind the scenes, right? I have in my community or in my network, students who were going to enter freshman year to this year, are in college, could not go to campus. They were disappointed. So they've taken Airbnbs either close to campus or in a different city just to be out of the homes. And these are kids who maybe can afford it, but I'm thinking about kids who can't afford it, who couldn't have funded it. Their parents are out of jobs. Are they looking at working and studying? Is that an option available? What about the mental state? Because we are looking at the anxiety levels go through the roof, and I've been hearing reports and reading reports about how schools are providing online mental health support now, because kids don't know how to handle this. While they were in campus, they were pressured and there was mental health issues. We all know that. And now this is just exacerbated, to Shashi, your point about that social, emotional, physical community feeling that they come to the school for. That's a big part of that experience and that growing up, which they are not getting. Is that going to kind of hinder them from coming back? because they're saying, hey, I can do this online. I can get my community at the workplace. I can work and make money, support my family. How are you seeing that piece evolving, especially given the populations that you serve, both your universities serve?
Let me start, Sabina, and let me tie that directly back to the issue of the smart campus. I think that as so much has happened with COVID has been a blocker, but it's also been an accelerator of trends that were already existing. And one of the trends is the demand for greater flexibility. We know that students in the Cal State on many campuses would like to, already wanted to take at least part of their education online. Students who live in Southern California, where I live, especially under normal traffic conditions, which we don't have now, but they might be spending easily an hour and a half to 2 hours between leaving where they live, driving to campus, finding a place to park, walking across campus to get to the classroom.
Yeah.
And they might be driving past 2 Cal States on the way. So why is it that a student at one Cal State can't walk into another Cal State and use their lab, join a club, participate in an activity, be in a dramatic production, be in a musical production? We really have this outdated model that works well for some students, but doesn't work for, I believe, the majority of the kind of students who go to state college, that imagines that you live on the campus and your entire social interaction is within that campus. And that can be a beautiful thing. I mean, and many of us had that, and I don't disparage the value of that for many students, but it's also not a reality for many students. And I think what Sasha was saying about EDUCAUSE is kind of the tip of the spear. The idea that you don't have to go to your campus to go to everything. He's got 39 field stations in the state of Washington. Why shouldn't you be able to go to any of them and get services? And why should you have to go to campus to get most services, right? I mean, most of our campuses are in this kind of 9 to 5 and close for lunch and leave early on Friday kind of model for offices. Even though our students are working, they have children, they're rushing to pick up their kids from daycare to rush to try to get there at 4:30 for an appointment with an advisor. Well, that's changed now. Now they're doing that like we're doing now over Zoom. They're doing things remotely. And so I think the implication for a smart campus is it's an opportunity to think about things like identity management and badging, things like Wi-Fi access, things like access to labs, ability to print. I was hoping printing would go away, but I don't think it will for quite a while. Access to mental health care, right? Why should you have to go to your campus that you might really like your campus, but if you could get a mental health counselor at a closer campus, you might be very happy to do that. Or if you're taking a semester and you're doing an internship and you're going to Cal State Fullerton in Orange County, but you're doing an internship in Oakland and you realize you need mental health care, why shouldn't you be able to go to Cal State East Bay? Well, we're not set up for that. And we try to do those things as best we can, but I think the sort of online, offline, moving around physically, especially in a state like California or Washington, where it's a big state, it's very differentiated. Just like Washington, we have areas that are very rural, we have areas that are very urban, and we have areas that are suburban. And so I think the idea of campus as a place is really going to change. And it might be this place where your heart is, in Pullman, but you end up spending much of your educational experience living in Vancouver or Spokane or Seattle. And you still have access to what Pullman has to offer, and you look forward to going back to Pullman and maybe getting out on the field and being a cougar and doing your commencement, and that's great. But that doesn't mean you have to be there all the time in order to be connected to that community and have access to those services. So I think it's gonna be really important as we build smart campus services that we think beyond the campus. We think out into the community, we think campus to campus, we think about forming consortiums that could be national, like EDUCAUSE, or international, so that students could go, we can start in a state, but wouldn't it be great if students could do the same thing in another state or in another country? And I mean, EDUCAUSE is just a beautiful example of that. And I think we need to look for more things around identity management and other types of access to services and build systems that will support it, instead of making this microcosm, this sort of beautiful little city on a hill where everything is there, but if you step off, you lose access to everything. Might work for some types of campuses, but I don't think for the campuses that Sasha and I represent.
So one of the things that I'm hearing both of you say, just to kind of summarize this impact on the student and the evolution of the student as a part and the purpose of a campus, right? Which is the historical purpose of the campus, bring them all here, teach them, and then put them out in the world, right? And now what you're saying is the campus should be the world. And it's all
I
over,
agree.
right? And so the two things that emerge for me. One is this whole notion of the digital access. That is the great equalizer, because all that we are talking about and what COVID has shown us, whether it's healthcare or education or working from home, retail, you're seeing all these industries getting completely redefined, but the common denominator has to be a utility called digital access.
Exactly.
And I'm almost thinking that is a cornerstone of the smart campus, that digital utility, whether it's EduRoam or a broader expansion of EduRoam, that if you have chosen to become a student in higher ed, then you have access to this network. And then physical location is wherever you are, whether where your job takes you, your home takes you, your family is, or your courses are, and what is best, and where you can get this access. So I'm almost hearing you guys say that if there's a utility aspect, there is this network which should be seamless, whether it's in a system, maybe, and then it's cities, and then it's states, and then it's global, maybe. So that will become, or is becoming, the main. I'm hoping that is what the students are also wanting, right? I mean, we are seeing this, but are they ready for it? And I guess time will tell. You both are telling me that students are already doing this.
That's right.
Right.
I just want to add two comments quickly to that. When we talk about access, like we said earlier, I kind of put as in 3 A's. You need access, you want affordability, and you want availability. And these are the 3 A's that we need to be working towards, because like we said earlier, without access, you don't have anything. But it has to be affordable and it has to be available. So these are all very critical factors. But going what Michael talked about earlier, about even within a system, we have barriers, not being able to go to one institution and get a degree from another. So this whole environment of higher education, in my opinion, we have to move away from being what I would call having a monopolistic tendency, and instead of being more open. And what do I mean by that? It's really stackable credentials. Why can't I take a course? If Carnegie Mellon is the best in robotics, I should be able to get the 2 or 3 course from Carnegie Mellon. And if Stanford is the best place for learning about entrepreneurship, I need to be able to put together a curriculum which is to take the best of the best from every institution, and take a couple of courses from Cal State. Maybe we need to take a course from Washington State University or California Davis, because they are focusing on agricultural or veterinary medicine, things like that. I think eventually that's going to happen. And the other nice thing about if that were to happen, it also opens the door for a large number of what we call adult learners. There are about 40 to 50 million of those people, and I don't mean in a bad way. I mean, people who would like to finish their education, and for one reason or another, they were not on the traditional path. And this actually opens up a huge opportunity for this 40 to 50 million people in this country. But it also opens up a huge opportunity at the same time for universities. Just imagine if we are not then completely dependent on high school graduates. We will have essentially an environment where we cater to students of all ages, and become lifelong learning becomes the moniker of future higher ed.
That's such a good segue into my next discussion, which I think you've covered a lot of points on, is the lens of the industry, right? The higher ed as an industry, right? A viable business, whether it's government funded or tuition funded, combination, donors, whatever. It is under stress right now. Whoever you might be in whatever, what part of the spectrum you are, it is under stress from a financial viability perspective. So as you reimagine, and we've already discussed a couple of the components of the Reimagine campus, and within that, the smartness that we're going to build, which is smart for everybody. It's a smart business model. It's smart for education. It's smart for the experiences. for research, faculty, whatever, and for the broader community, like you were saying, adult learners. What do you see that as, if you have to reimagine this? I mean, I'm thinking about saying, besides the seamless network thing, is there a clustered based experiences? One school is having this mega music show. Can everybody come in from that community or other, if you happen to be? So, think about social experiences, because you're not only academic. How do you carry forward the legacy, which was all the good parts of the legacy, into this new campus? How do you reimagine this? We've discussed a couple of points, but what else is there? Do we need to have large, classrooms, for example? This is my space capture. How will you reimagine the physics?
Yeah, I mean, so having large classrooms that's like how Plato and Aristotle taught people. And they stood at the front of the classroom, had students sit down, and then you lectured to them, and then everybody disappears, right? I think the education and learning happens continuously, and we have to make opportunities to make that happen, whether that's in person or that's in online. But as during this time, we are experiencing what can we push forward. So one of the things that we are trying to look at is freshman and sophomore physical labs, like in physics and chemistry. What can we do to put that into online? So we are experimenting and starting to look at different alternatives, because as I said before, people learn by two critical factors. People learn by doing. I mean, just seeing a math professor doing hundreds of problems on a board is not going to make you good at math. You have to do those problems yourself. Okay. Number two, you also learn from each other. So team learning is a critical part, and that'll carry into adult life, as we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
So I think these two things, we need to be able to do that as well as we do in person, as much online. So I think, so the closer we can get to that, it'll be better.
So Michael, just building on that, as you answer this question, I want you to think about also the role of technology in creating these new capabilities, experiences, and services, which will be the part of this new productive, reimagined campus. So kind of build that into your answer as you think about it.
Absolutely. I think what's really coming to me as we've had the conversation, something I think about before, but this has been a very helpful conversation to crystallize this, is we really have to imagine a boundaryless campus. I mean, the campus was modeled on the idea that everything you needed was there in the campus. You could go to the campus and you'd spend, many, many months just there, and you got your social interactions, you got all your learning access to your professors, you got the services that were offered, you have athletics, social clubs, entertainment. Maybe you had to leave campus to go to a bar that was nearby, but it's pretty much all right there. And each campus was this own kind of little city, almost like a walled city that was very safe and gave that impression, and you kind of went there, and it was all about the place. And I think that that model is not going to work for most of our campuses. Maybe still work for some, but I don't think it works for most students, and I don't think it's going to work for most campuses. So campuses have to think about, what are they good at? What is going to be special about that campus that's going to be an attractor? Because students are going to have choices, and departments are going to have to think about, what are the kind of learning experiences that we can offer face-to-face in a small group or in a lab that the students can't get an equivalent experience online. So they're going to want to choose to have that experience. What is it about a library at one campus that's going to make students feel like, I want to go use that library. It really meets my needs. And so I think, and so where it ties back into the smart campus is, it's going to be more data driven. I really do believe, because in order to understand the student experience, if the students are moving from place to place, we're going to have to figure out how to collect that data, but also with a strong ethical foundation of protecting the students' authority and autonomy over their own data. So there's a complex balance there, but I think that a boundaryless education that's online, face-to-face, in multiple places at multiple times in your career, that lasts from 18 to 88, and lets you move around and find what works for you right now in your life at a place that's convenient for you and makes sense for what you're doing right now. And as opposed to a little place you go to, you stay there for a while and then you leave. I really think that, again, and I was privileged to have that kind of education, and it was great, and I don't think it's going to go away. But I don't think it, when Sasi talks about access, that's not accessible and affordable to the vast majority of people in this country, let alone around the world. And so I think that it's going to be much more of a boundaryless campus. So the campus space is important. It plays an important role, but it's part of a larger student experience.
I'm thinking about my kids, right? So as I sent my kids into kindergarten and then K to 12 and then into college, I'm thinking about my umbilical cord just grew longer and longer. And now that has been replaced by this whole digital connection, right? I talk to my daughter on FaceTime. I never miss her because she's there all the time, easily accessible, seeable. I can see whether she's happy, sad, whatever. And I'm almost thinking that you say, okay, school is safe, now college is safe, but you are growing more independent and then you're out in the world, right? So it's like a training process. So I'm almost thinking that how does the digital kind of a backbone tread this? Because our kids are living on, in this digital age. So think about Facebook. You are meeting the same people on Facebook and then you're also meeting them outside. But it's almost like a seamless interaction. It's a different example, but that was the closest analogy I could come to. So let's go to the next piece of it. One is the pace of change, right? We know higher ed is not known for its speed of change unless it is, determined by extraordinary circumstances like COVID-19. And there are only two ways, slow or fast. Like leaders, choose ways of saying, okay, we're going to go slow or we're going to go fast on this. So if you have to think about, what are the kind of things that will change slowly or don't need to change, but what things need to change fast and now? What would those be in this new world that we are trying to build for for campuses and education?
We have to achieve universal access to the ability to use technology for the students, the staff, and the faculty. And it is going to take some time because a lot of the tools that you need to do, there's long lead times, but we have to get going on that fast. We certainly have seen that colleges can change quickly. Universities can change quickly because they did. In the last 6 months, they've changed a lot.
Yeah. And
of course, it's been a painful change for a lot of people. Some people are going to be like, no more change. I'm done. That was all. I want to go back. But I do think that we're not going to go back to a time when online access is optional.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So online access is definitely one. The other one, what about instruction? Faculty is not used to delivering content online, right? Unless you were doing that already. And that's
anecdotally, I know some faculty have really enjoyed this shift in a way they didn't expect. And they see real positive things. Others, I'm sure, absolutely hate it and can't wait to get back to what they knew before. But I do think we're creating a cohort of people who see the possibilities for teaching and learning online.
Yeah, to that point, what I'm really excited about is there are several faculty who have now reached out to it and asked us, okay, well, what else and how else can I do this, do it better? Before I couldn't get anybody's attention to say, hey, why do you want it? We want to try this technology or this methodology. No, we are pretty happy the way we are. Don't disturb something that's already working. But now there is an upsurge of people, of faculty who will want to do that. The other thing, of course, as we switch more and more things online, one thing we need to be very sensitive to is the security and privacy of data and how we're capturing that. So this is not a easy cakewalk, taking stuff we are doing on-premise and moving into online. There are additional factors that come into play that we need to be very, very sensitive about. And those laws are different depending upon the country. But as we move more to online methodologies, the other thing that opens up is the access and availability to our international students. They don't have to travel very far now to be able to gain the best of the best in terms of higher education in the United States.
Excellent. So are there any no regret changes? I mean, is there any area that you guys feel from your university perspectives that, thank God, we have an opportunity to do this?
I never thought I would see the chair of the faculty senate for the state talking about Eduroam at a board meeting. That blew me away.
Sashi, what about you? Do you?
Yeah, like I was saying earlier, our faculty chair, who his term is just up, he was a delight to work with because he and I were able to sit and envision as what we need to do and then make it happen with our staff. And so I think when people see things like that and delivering results, I think there'll be more people who will want to push the envelope. What I see with the COVID-19, like I was mentioning earlier, we talked about it, it accelerated the schedule for change for the better. There are always some gaps, and then
that's the important part of it. Yeah, that's it. So so you both are seeing the role of the campus evolving. Technology, digital access playing a key enabling part behind the scenes, and really the campus becoming more like a seamless, boundaryless, but connected universe, if you will, of continuous learning and education. So let me kind of shift to a little personal note, and that's where we're going to end our conversation today. How have you changed as a person, and how do you see your role as a leader changing in the midst of all of this, from where you sit today?
Well, I just have to mention we need to wrap up because I've got to get on to something else. But
yes,
I'm tired. But it's been good. I mean, I think it's been great to be wanted. But sometimes you'd like people to maybe want a little less technology for a while. But
so,
yeah.
I would agree with that. I would say it's sort of nice now. You have other people talking about and advocating technology and wanting to do more with it rather than just the CIO. And this gives an opportunity for the CIOs to focus on business value and what are we delivering. So this is actually enabling us to create a cohesive team with the faculty and students on one side and technologists on the other side, both of us moving in the direction of the other's expertise, which means working together, we're going to have a much, much better and a more sustainable outcome.
Excellent, excellent. Great. Thank you so much, both. This was a wonderful discussion, insightful for me, a great discussion, lots to think and ponder and change in the coming days. Have a great rest of the EDUCAUSE, and we shall be in touch. Thank you. And for the listeners here, I want to just share that we are going, we're going to do a transcript of the highlights of this session. And if you need to reach out to us, please reach out to me on sabina.saksena@citylife.com. I am trying to change my slide here, but Michael and Sashi, once again from me, thank you very much. Have a wonderful rest of the day and talk to you guys. Bye.
Go EDUCAUSE. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.